So for this presentation, I'm inviting you all to open your hearts and to feel what resonates with you in this information. I am inviting you to be open to the new possibilities and to the world to be more beautiful than we are imagining right now. As you know, I don't have a medical degree, but information I'm giving you, you can check it from your past practice and in your future practice. And I'm sure while I'll be telling this, something will come to mind and some situations will come to mind, and you will see how it resonates with your life in general. And this presentation won't give you a magic pill from all the diseases, and it won't heal all of your symptoms. But what it can do, it can give you a magic pill from fear. And if you practice this, you may find yourself free of fear for your health. And I really hope that you come to this point as I did. So, what do we know about modern medicine? We were told that health is an absence of symptoms. When we have symptoms, we usually say that we are unhealthy, and when we get rid of symptoms, we say that we are healthy. Also, modern medicine tells us that diseases appear randomly, and usually, especially with chronic diseases, their reasons are unknown. Doctors tend to explain chronic diseases by lifestyle, environment, genetics, like all those global unknown reasons. And we also know from modern medicine that we need to protect ourselves from the environment to be healthy. We need to be protected from nature, from bacteria, from bad air, and like this. Also, we were told that only a trained doctor knows what's happening in our bodies. I heard so many times from doctors saying, when I tried asking questions, I heard many times doctors saying, do you want to be healthy or do you want to ask questions? You just take this pill and you'll be healthy. There is also an opinion, I think it's starting to change now, but there is an opinion that specialists are better than holistic practitioners, specialists who treat body organs by organ by organ. And it has been accepted that emotions don't have an impact on a physical body. It's starting to change now, and I've heard many classic doctors saying that stress could be a cause of the disease, and they start to research it, but until recent times, it has been like this. So with all these assumptions, how do you feel about your health? Please feel free to drop into chat a couple words, just in short. Disempowered, yes. Do you feel fearful? Powerless. Me personally, I feel not knowing what's going on with my body. When I'm being told that I shouldn't ask questions and I should just follow the instructions. And also, we might feel not in control of our health. So what else do we know about modern medicine? Modern medicine basically says that the body is a machine that needs to be fixed in order to be healthy. And usually modern medicine is very good with urgent situations like traumas, bleedings, and surgeries. And it is less effective with chronic diseases. I saw some statistics from the United States, and it said that visits to urgent care are like 10, 20 times less than visits to what do you call it? Primary care. Yeah, there it is, them statistics. So I have a question. Is it okay that we use the methods of urgent situations, the urgent medicine, which we can call survival medicine, to our daily life, to the chronic diseases? And are we open to the possibility that the world can be more beautiful? I am, and I hope you are too. Okay, thank you, Sean. So let me give you another perspective on this. So what if we can move from survival care to sustainable, regenerative, or even generative health? What if we all already have everything we need to be healthy? As you know, from all those recent neurosciences, a human brain doesn't see the difference between something real and something imagined. One of my conclusions from this information is that we can tell ourselves different stories, and we can see what stories were told to us, and like I call it programming, and we can see which programs do not serve us anymore, and we can reprogram ourselves. So what if we can tell ourselves a different story about our health? And let me suggest what this story can be. What if nature is not our enemy, because we are nature, we are part of nature? What if we can and we are living in symbiosis with nature and our environment? You all know that our bodies are regenerating all the time. This is not some huge discovery. You know, when you cut yourself, you go to bed, you wake up in the morning, and you see yourself healed or half healed with this wound. So if it works with skin, maybe it works with everything else. And our bodies actually are regenerating all the time. And understanding their regeneration process can help us support ourselves in recovery, but not to intervene too much into this process. This part, I love it the most. So the new perspective and new assumptions would be our body expresses health through somatic symptoms, which means that symptoms actually are natural signs of recovery and regeneration. Basically, it means that what we call being sick or having symptoms is just another side of our health. We are not unhealthy, we're still healthy. I love this phrase, actually, body expresses health through somatic symptoms. Because we are healthy all the time. Can you imagine this? And the third statement would be that body and emotions are connected. But I'm sure everybody who's present today already know this. And there have been so many so many researches on this topic about the link between stress and the body, but we will go even deeper right now. So the basic principles of neuropsychosomatics are: all the symptoms are caused by a conflict. A conflict is an emotional reaction to some situation that has happened, and this is important, this situation was perceived as shocking, dramatic, and unexpected most of the times. There are some other situations, but usually it works like this. So we call this this point of entrance a conflict. And this conflict starts a biological program in our body, which is intended to for us to survive in the end, to survive and become even stronger. And this biological program has two phases. First phase is a phase of active conflict, and the second phase is a phase of recovery. And now I'm going to show you how it looks. So this first part, oh, you're not seeing my arrow, right? My cursor. Yeah, you can see it? You can see it, okay. Great, so this first part is a normal rhythm of person not in stress. It's called, during the day we have sympathetic mode, and during the night we have parasympathetic mode. The first one is called sympathicotony, and the other one vagotony. What it means, during the day we're active, we're ready to run, to do something, and during the night we rest and digest, and it's called a warm stage. When something happens, this orange oval here symbolizes a conflict happening, so some situation that was perceived as dramatic. Something happens, and then starts a conflict active stage, during which our body and our mind and our psyche are trying to find a resolution to this conflict which has happened. It could be a very short time, or it could be even years. In the wild nature, it usually takes not more than 3 days. For example, for a deer to run away from predator. And this would be like, yeah, with this example, with the deer, it would be a conflict active stage when it is running away. He is very active, and he needs all his power. He doesn't sleep, he doesn't eat, he just runs. He needs all his energy, and then when if he manages to run away and hide, then the conflict is resolved and he starts healing, because of all this conflict mass that was accumulated during those days while he was running. So when he stops, he will be eating, sleeping, he might get a fever, he might get some healing if he has some wounds, and in the first stage his legs, yeah, he doesn't have hands, so legs will be cold, and in the second stage he will be warm. He might get, as I said, he might get fever, and he will be recovering, and usually it takes almost the same time to recover as the conflict active stage took time. And the same happens with people, but people have a lot of imagined fears, imagined conflicts, and we can stay in this conflict active stage for a long time, actually. And then this process of recovery becomes, the symptoms become more intense, and it can be a bit severe. if you think of some situation, or maybe a recent situation when you felt sick, you may find that there was something that happened right before this. For example, if you woke up in the morning having sore throat or cough, or runny nose or fever, then it means that the night before, in the evening or during the day, something has happened that was dramatic, or it was something that was resolved for a prolonged conflict. For example, when a person has a fight with a person he loves, and it is very intense and there are a lot of emotions, and maybe he says something that he's been meaning to say for a long time, but he was keeping it to himself, and finally he did say it, then it is very likely that in the morning he might get some symptoms in his throat. And yeah, so signs of an active conflict, this is very useful and practical, and the next time you will have, for example, cold limbs, you will remember this information. So cold limbs, insomnia, obsessive thinking, this is like these three are the most yeah, the biggest factors, the biggest signs of this stage. Constant state of stress, less appetite, and loss of weight. For example, when I was right now, when I was preparing for this presentation, and I got really nervous for 2 reasons that I mentioned earlier. And I am still having, my hands are cold and my feet are cold, which is not typical for me since I discovered all this information and started using it in my life. So, and I immediately recognized this first stage of an active conflict, and I knew that it was happening because I am nervous. I am preparing for this. I've been preparing for this for a long time. So basically, I am in this stage of active conflict right now. And when I finish this presentation, I will become, my hands and feet will become super hot. I will be probably, I would feel exhausted. I will feel super hungry, and I might even get slight fever if the intensity of my nervousness is pretty high. But I'm ready for this, and I'm not afraid. So yes, this is the stage of an active conflict. And here is another one. The second one's signs of of a recovery stage. Just a second. Yeah. So signs of the recovery stage. Most types of pain. We are used to think that pain is us being sick, but actually it's not. I know it's mind-blowing, but if you understand what it means, usually pain means some swelling. By the way, it is somewhere here. Yeah, there is swelling. Pain usually means that tissue became swollen, and it gives pressure on the tissue near it, or on the nerves inside the tissue, inside organ, for example, and then we get the pain. And headache comes also from this. It is a part of our brain that gets swollen because of the conflict being resolved, having been resolved. So these are typical signs of recovery phase. Most types of pain, there are some exceptions, but it's another, it's an information for another day. Headache. Usually when I have headache, or my friends, they all know this information, they go like, oh, good, something has been resolved. I'm recovering now. Super. And that's what all of us and my family, oh yeah, you see, I'm getting not so cold anymore. So yeah, I'm past the nervous stage already. And my hands are getting warmer and warmer. So yes, my family and my friends, when we get some kind of pain or headache, we're like, oh, good, I'm recovering. Something has been resolved. And in an hour or the next day, we know that it will go away because we're not afraid. We will talk about fear a bit further. But right now, let's go back to these signs of recovery phase. So swelling of any kind, the one that we can see and the one that we cannot see. When we have pain inside in organs, it means that they are swollen as well. Sweating is an amazing sign of recovery. If you get night sweats, you should celebrate in the morning because it means that something was cleaned from the system through skin and through lymphatic system. Fever is a good sign. I don't know how it is right now in the United States. But in our country, I know that a lot of doctors recommend not to try to lessen fever if it's bearable, because it is part of this healing process. And okay, this is correct in the USA. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for this information. So, I'm by the way, I'm so happy that a lot of classic doctors become more and more aligned with these natural processes of recovery, or maybe we're just going back actually, because I'm sure that we knew all this information and we have it somewhere. We know a lot of this stuff intuitively, but in last, I think 100 years, it was changed. I know that in my country, there were a lot of natural doctors, so-called natural doctors, like in villages, who would treat people with less pharmaceutical products, but with more natural stuff and more knowing of these natural processes. Swelling, sweating, fever, feeling exhausted, and having appetite, all those are amazing signs of recovery. When we feel tired, it is actually our body communicating with us and telling us, please let me rest, I need to recover. And when we don't listen to this and we go and work and I don't know, run and jump, and because we want to be healthy, we want to show up healthy, then we're not letting our bodies to recover, and we should do that. I want to go back a little bit to those to this scheme, to this drawing. So the first phase is called cold phase because of the, why do we get cold limbs in general? Because all our blood comes to the center, to the heart, for us to give a lot of energy for this fight or flight mode, for the action. And when we get warm and when we get relaxed, the blood spreads all over the body and goes back to the limbs. And also one important moment that we need to know, actually two. So the first phase of healing stage is a swelling stage. That's when we get pain and swelling, and it's a normal process. The second one, healing B, it's called in this image. This is, I think in medical terms, it's called exudative stage. It means that all the excess water leaves our body. So we go to the toilet many times, we sweat, and it's again a very good sign of our recovery being almost finished. And then we go back to this normal rhythm of day-night phases. But in the middle of this healing stage, there is a healing crisis. Some doctors say that it's like an exam of our biological program to check whether we passed this conflict, right, or something like this. They put it like this. And in this healing crisis, we might get all the symptoms and pain. Everything is much more intensive, much stronger, but it's a short period of time. So we get spasms here, all the spasms, all the epilepsy, epileptic, I'm not sure what it's called in English. Well, you understood me. So epilepsy, spasms, and acute pain, and the highest fever, it all happens in this healing crisis. And it's something that we need to know, and we need to be calm about, and to just to let it happen, not to be afraid. I'm saying a lot of times not to be afraid, and you will understand why I'm saying this very soon. I'm not going too fast because I get excited. Is it okay to listen to me? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cold phase and recovery phase. By the way, if any of you have cold limbs for a long time, it means that you have some unresolved conflict for a long time. And there is something to think about and to search for. Oh, Gertald, thank you. I see seizures now. Okay. The third important thing that we need to know is that all the processes in the body take place on 3 levels simultaneously. It's not something that happens one by one. Brain, psyche, and organ. I'm saying organ here and not body for a reason. When this initial conflict happens, it activates a certain relay in our brain in a certain one certain spot, which actually can be seen on a CT scan. And at the same time, we have an emotional reaction. So it happens at the same time. And at the same time, there's a process starting in some organ or some place or in a bone or in a muscle somewhere in our body. So these three give a certain location of the symptom. I'm not using the word disease anymore, actually, because I know that it's all about health. So I'm saying symptom. And here I have one. There is a CT scan of the cortex. I don't remember the name in English, but okay, the CT scan of the brain, of the certain part of the brain. And a trained doctor who knows this information can look at the CT scan. Do you see the circles here? Yeah, you can see them clearly through the internet. Yeah, great. So these circles, they show the certain spot in the brain. Right now, the spot is about motor function of the left hand, and this is like classic information from neuroscience. And these circles, they show the swelling in this part. And a trained doctor can look at the CT scan and he can say, okay, this is this person, I know right now that this is a woman, this person has lived through a conflict that involved her left hand. Usually it's about grabbing something or somebody, or it is more about not being able to grab somebody. So this is a conflict of loss for a person. And because the circle has very the line of the circle can be seen very clearly, it means that it is in an active phase right now. So this person has lost somebody very dear to her, and she's still grieving. She is still in this state of loss. So what we know her emotional state, we know her emotional reaction to the event, we know what happened, we know what part of her body aches, and we know that she hasn't resolved it yet. So for now, she might not have all those symptoms of the second stage, but in the first stage, how to say, for this exact for this exact conflict, she might have some heartache, literal heartache. I'm not going deeper right now into these details, but this was just an illustration how it happens in all three levels at the same time, and how a trained doctor can actually see it from one CT scan. So when we know this information, we actually can, by one piece of information, we can unwind the whole chain of the processes happening in a person. So emotions are a part of our health. And now you see that it is super important because, as I said before, and I will repeat it again, that not the event itself is a cause of symptoms, but an emotional reaction, because several people can have very different reactions to the one event happening. And actually, when I was reading Gabor Mate's book, When Your Body Says No, I love it. I haven't finished it yet, but I love it. He said that if there is a connection between the body and emotions, people should be informed about it to have an additional instrument to heal themselves. So that is what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to inform you about this connection. And what do we know right now? Again and again, I'm repeating this. An emotional reaction is important. So basically, this approach wouldn't be that effective for people who are not connected with their emotions. If a person cannot say what they feel in certain circumstances, then it would be hard to find the initial conflict and the initial reason of their symptoms. And also, if emotions are ignored for a long period of time, then the recovery can be pretty intense. So that is the exact reason why we have some intense, I don't want to say diseases, yeah, recoveries. And I also, what I really like about this approach is that there is much less unknown when we know this, because everything has its very logical and biological reason, actually. And it is amazing when you can connect all the dots here. I've been practicing it with myself, with my family, with my friends for 4 years, and I can see every day, I can see even more clear how it all is connected. I'm amazed. Okay. Oh yeah, one more thing. There is more than one conflict involved in the recovery, and that makes it a bit harder for a person themselves to understand what's going on, and sometimes for a health practitioner who supports the person in recovery. But it's okay. It's a very normal thing. We as psychologists say that a grown-up person, psychologically mature person, usually has a bunch of emotions, a mix of emotions in stressful situations. So it's normal that we have different symptoms for one event. Okay, and now we got to the fear. And this is like, I think, the most important part of this presentation, and I really want to to stress this out. Fear is one of the most influential factor on health. If we don't have fear, we actually can recover like this. The recovery process is pretty easy, pretty much with any situation. But fear is what makes it lethal. Some doctors say that fear is the only lethal disease, actually, and I will explain to you why. This is not just words. I have some information. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Fear is, I don't want to demonize it, because fear is helpful. We know that fear protects us in urgent situations, but fear can be helpful for a short period of time, like with that example with the deer when it's running away. Sometimes it saves lives. But when fear is prolonged or imagined for a long time, then it can be super harmful to health. And here is, I will explain to you one of the fears, or it's not one fear, but one of the conflict that is the most harmful to health. So NPS practitioners call it the syndrome with a capital S, and it includes several types of fears: fear of becoming lonely, fear of abandonment, fear of not knowing what's happening to the body. This one usually appears when a person is told by a doctor about some scary diagnosis and some really bad forecast about his health. And this fear that I don't know what's happening, or even when a person gets symptoms but they don't know what's happening or what it may mean, it can create this fear as well. It is also called a refugee syndrome, and unfortunately my whole country is in this syndrome right now. Well, of course, it depends on how people react to the conflict, to the situation, to the war that's happening right now, but a lot of us have this refugee syndrome. And also they call it a hospital syndrome, because when we are in hospital, we feel lonely, we feel abandoned, we feel scared, because well, the whole hospital atmosphere can be pretty scary. So what happens here? This conflict, this syndrome, is also called the traveler in the desert. And the metaphor would be a traveler who doesn't have much water, and he needs some time to get to an oasis and to get more water. So his body goes to this emergency state, and what does he need? He needs to preserve water. So what happens? Kidneys, they have these small tubes inside of them. They are called collecting tubes. So the brain gives a command, and the body shuts down these tubes to preserve water. What happens? Body and organs start to swell. And this can actually lead to a lot of pain and to risk of death, because swelling without fear is actually harmless, and it can come, it can naturally resolve itself in a couple of days. But if we have any type of those fears that I'm telling you about, then it can be risky. For example, if our lungs start to swell inside, then they start blocking the air and we don't have enough air, and then they start pushing tubes down the throat, and then we get more scared and the lungs become more swollen, and then it can all lead to death. And they say that this syndrome with the capital S, when the kidneys are shut down, can actually increase the intensity of the symptoms from 6 to 12 times. So if in normal state we feel like the amount of pain 1 on the 10 from 1 to 10 scale, with this syndrome it will be 10. So so there is a solution to this. First of all, every time that we get any symptom, any at all, like any kind of pain, any fever, anything, we should check ourselves for fear, for any for those types of fear that I spoke about, and do something to deal with it. So basically what we need to calm ourselves down every time we get sick, so-called sick. If going to a doctor calms us down, we should do this. If taking a pill calms us down, we should do this. If not going to a doctor calms us down, we should do this. So that's why I say that it is always very individual how we should approach helping a person to recover, because these fears, they have such an influence. And the first thing that any helper, any health practitioner should do is calm a person down with any techniques that are available. And the second is taking a salty bath. This is one of my favorites because it is like a universal medicine for almost everything, because it has three amazing features. First, when we get into a salty bath, exactly 1%, it's 1 kilogram of salt to 100 liters of water. I'm not sure what it is in pounds. I hope you can recalculate. But yeah, it's 1%. Why do we need 1%? Because it is the same liquid that we have in the uterus of mothers. So when we get into this bath, our psyche starts to relax just by itself, because we feel safer and safer. The longer we stay in this bath, we feel safer. And when we feel safe, our kidneys start to open up those collecting tubes and release the excess water. And with this, we get less swelling and we get less pain, and all our symptoms start to dissolve. It's like magic. I often get asked how much time we should spend in a bath. I love the answer of my doctors. They usually say, well, it's the best would be to spend like 9 months in a salty bath. Yeah, because like we can relieve this embryo period from the start and feel super safe. And I think, my doctors say that most of modern people have this syndrome in to a certain degree. So I would say that we all need a salty bath tonight, at least for an hour. Usually, from my experience, it takes at least 40 minutes for kidneys to open up, and the sign of it would be our wish to pee. So we should stay in a bath until we want to go to the toilet. And if you want, we can stay after, and the more the better. So the salty bath is an amazing thing when we have any kinds of pain, a headache, any pain in muscles, in bones, anywhere in the body. I see something popping up in the chat. Yes, Eiko, that is why we feel drawn to the ocean. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, that's one of the best things that we can do. If the water is warm enough, we can come to the sea or to the ocean and just lay down where it's shallow, and just in my language, I would say do the hippopotamus, like, you know, to be in the water. But I think in an ocean, the water would be too cold for that to stay alone. So the water needs to be of a comfortable temperature, and there shouldn't be any horror movies or reading news or nothing that gives that makes a person nervous. So full relaxation, and something else I wanted to point out. Oh yes, the salt. Salt, we use the basic, the simplest kitchen salt, cooking salt there is. So you don't need sea salt. You don't need sea salt with any aromas or something. So it's the simplest salt that you can get. Okay, let's move on. Oh yeah, there's another super important information. I hope I managed to transfer how much this dealing with fear is important to the health. Maria is saying that salty water therapy is a fantastic healing. Oh yeah, by the way, Maria, she is my friend, and she, when I told her about this salty bath in June, she said that after Maria, I think it was the first time you said that you started sleeping, like
yes,
first time. Yeah.
This is just after the big invasion, so that was the first time I've managed to sleep the whole night, just not trying to look at the telephone, and that was the first night with a completely sleep, and it's I do really remember that day a few months ago when I managed to do that after meeting you in Krakow.
Yeah, thank you for this. It is actually an amazing therapy, and when I tell these people for the first time, they're like, oh, I don't have a bath, I don't have salt, I don't have, I don't know, time, whatever. But when they try it for the first time, and when they hear what it does, they start doing it more often. For example, my parents, they tend to try to have to take a salty bath almost every night. Not me, but I do this from time to time too. Okay, and more important information, information about tracks. So if we have a symptom that is reoccurring in your life, it usually means that there is a track. What it means, during a dramatic and shocking event, our body memorizes everything that's happening around us. All the sensations that we feel, it will record it and create a sort of alarm system. And next time that when something of this alarm library pops up, it will give the same symptoms that we had in the previous situation. That's how allergies are caused. I have a very good example. Well, I have several friends who are healed from their long-term allergies, but one of the examples I want to tell is about gluten, actually. It is not my patient, it is a patient of my doctor that I have been learning all this stuff from. So there was a boy, he was around 10, I guess, and he had a severe allergy to gluten. And he came with his parents, and they started to look for the initial conflict that could have caused it. And it turns out that when he was very small, like 2-3 years old, his parents wanted to leave, I don't know, to go to the movies or somewhere, and he really didn't want them to leave, and he was stopping them. He was like standing like this near the door, and it was some dramatic situation for him. I don't know, maybe it was the first time he was left alone, but he was holding a piece of bread at that moment. He was eating it, or he was holding it, so it was somewhere near him, and his brain recorded it as a sign of danger. And during those next years, every time he ate bread, it was like, alarm, alarm, there's danger, there's danger. And that is called a track. So the bread here has nothing to do with the situation itself. It was just there. It was recorded by his brain. And at that session, when they came to this doctor, they discovered this situation and they talked it through. And what they actually needed to do was that parents promised to this boy that this could never happen again. And he was already more grown up, and yeah, they kind of promised that they wouldn't leave him in situation like this. And the doctor suggested, okay, so here I have some bread, please have it. And parents went like, no, we will have to call ambulance or something, we're not ready. And he said, look, you have fear in your eyes, and children read the fear, scan parents' faces, and can read the emotions and fear from your eyes. And he said, you have to be fearless in the first place, and then he can take it from you. So they calmed themselves down, and he actually ate this bread, and they were sitting like this and ready to call the ambulance, but nothing happened. And he ate some more, and he ate some more, and he was okay. And it's not the one story of an allergy. Is I have like dozens of those severe allergies and not so severe, and with cats, and with what's the word, in spring when everything is blooming, so like and food allergies, everything works like this. So there are tracks, and these tracks, it could be anything. And how we usually work with this, how we discover what actually causes the symptoms, well, first of all, by knowing the symptom, we know what kind of conflict it is. And second of all, we try to remember what happened right before we got the symptom for the first time. If we cannot remember this, then we try to analyze what happens every time right before we get the symptom. So it's very useful to have some kind of diary or something to write down what happens, and then we can see what actually happens. For example, even doctors could be tracks. Like in my country, they wear white robes in hospitals. So even the white robe can be a track for a person. For example, for children who were in hospitals when they were little, and they struggled and they had some really dramatic stuff. Yes, so this is the thing about tracks. And we're almost there, by the way. I'm trying to be productive and to give as much information as I can and not to overload you. But I hope it's interesting. So the old paradigm is that we call it specialist professional health and survival care. And the new paradigm that I'm offering you is self-regenerative health. And with this new paradigm, we can see the immune system as a system not to fight and defend as we usually see it, but with a function to clean and regenerate. And cleaning would be with the help of lymphatic system, with all this cleaning of excess water, excess liquid from the bodies. And regenerate, it is already, the regenerative function, it is already in our bodies. We just need to understand how it goes, and we just need to support it. So for example, if I wake up in the morning and I have some kind of symptoms, like something like cold, for example, I tell myself, oh, okay, now I need to rest. I am recovering from something. It is amazing, so I will just lay down and eat. And that's it. That's how we support ourselves. And raising psychological awareness can be a preventative method for many symptoms. Why it works this way? Because when we understand what reaction we have to the events that we are experiencing, we can talk them through somebody we trust. And this way, when we break this informational isolation, we release this conflict mass. And when we resolve the conflict, then we won't have such intense symptoms. So talking through our emotions and our emotional reactions to things is super important for our health. It's like we need to do this every night with somebody we trust. And then this way we won't accumulate all those small and big conflicts in ourselves that would burst out in some huge symptoms or some diseases that they will scare us with. I can see something in the chat. What are you doing if you know what happened before the first occurrence? You mean about allergy, Gertrude? Yeah?
Yeah, you said we have to find out what happened before the first thing happened, for example, yeah, allergy or whatever. And then what's the next step after you know it?
Okay, I understood the question. So the realization of this link between symptom and the initial conflict already works, like it minimizes symptoms at least 50% from my experience. The next step could be convincing yourself that that situation could never happen again and could never scare you again. For example, telling yourself that you're grown up right now, that something that happened in childhood cannot just happen anymore. So we need to basically we need to tell our brain that this alarm system is not useful anymore, that it can release it with any way possible that we can convince ourselves. And usually it works. It's actually a very frequent question, because people say, okay, I heard that, I understood that, but what do I need to do? And usually there is not much to do. It's more to realize and to reprogram your brain and just communicate with your brain, like telling it, okay, this is useful, this is not useful for me anymore, something like this. Okay, so basically all this approach comes down to several recommendations that I have on the level of body. it is embodiment practices are useful because they help us connect with our bodies and to feel how we feel. Actually, what do we sense? Because I know some people who don't sense whether they're cold or hot, whether they're hungry, like, so, and everything that connects us with our bodies is good. Trusting our bodies and its processes is super important, because usually we want to get rid of symptoms and we want to we are in a rush, like I need to be healthy as soon as possible. I cannot be sick. And it can be for many reasons. Sometimes we don't want to be seen as sick, and we need to let go of this. And we need to understand that it takes as much time as it needs. And we just check ourselves for fear. If there is no fear, we just trust our body and we say, okay, I know you're doing a great job. I'm giving you all the conditions that you need. Just rest and recover. Lymphatic drainage in all the possible ways. Walking, massages, any physical activity. Like I have stairs in my house right behind me, and every time I go upstairs, I'm like, okay, there is a lymphatic drainage for me. So any kind of lymphatic drainage is very, very good, because it is our cleaning system. Basically, it takes out everything that we don't need with excess water. And a salty bath. I hope I said it enough times that you remember about the salty bath. It was about the body and about emotions, psychological calmness. Now I understand why I was so drawn to Zen concept, but this calmness has to be real, like it doesn't, it cannot be forced. It has to be real. And when we evolve the psychological calmness and we don't have strong reactions to the events, then it is actually a preventative method. So we don't have such intense symptoms after all. And it's not like when we already had a reaction and then we repress it. No, it doesn't work this way. It's to try to have this in general, as Eiko likes to say, not giving a fuck attitude to life. Right, Eiko? Yeah, so it is super helpful for health, actually. Emotional intelligence, to know what kind of reaction you have to an event is important to talk it through. Sharing about your emotions and events in your life freely, of course, with people you trust, not with everybody, but it is very helpful for health. And doing the shadow work and working with the fear of death, but it is kind of an ideal picture, and it is a never-ending process, we know, probably, but it is super helpful. And in general, about lifestyle. So first is getting out of constant stress. People who live in constant stress in their families, at work, they are always in this active phase, you remember from this picture. So they are accumulating this mass that at some point will resolve in some really big and intense symptoms. So getting out of constant stress is a very aware thing to do, I would say. Sometimes when people have some really scary diagnosis, like cancer or something like this, it can be helpful to get away from their normal environment to some place in the nature for at least 9 months, because they get away from those tracks that they may not notice even, and they get to a more relaxed atmosphere, and their body will just recover if they don't have this fear about the diagnosis, about not knowing what's going on in the body and everything. So getting out of constant stress is a medicine. Giving yourself a lot of appreciation and acknowledgement. This one is, again, very important. I want to stress it out. And what we are doing in our Light in Action group is actually so contributing to our health every time when we give appreciations. What it means, I found out that they discovered that when we depreciate ourselves, when we blame ourselves for something, for anything, our bones, our muscles start to ruin. Why it happens? Because, for example, if I blame my hands for not doing the right thing that I do with my hands, anything like I'm not a good writer, I'm not a good painter, my hands are so bad, my brain gets understands it as a command that we don't need hands, we can take them away. And what happens? The cells, the bone cells, they start to dissolve, and that's how people get osteoporosis. These very easily breakable bones, because they've been blaming and depreciating themselves for a very, very long time. For this to happen, it needs to be for a long time. So we need to get rid of any kind of blame, and we need to appreciate ourselves a lot. I would even recommend to have some kind of appreciation diary or a success diary, and every night to acknowledge ourselves for even little things that we do, and to watch out for those moments when we depreciate ourselves. It is super, super, super important. And when we get pain in muscles, in bones, these types of pain, it usually means that we've been deprecating ourselves for some time, and then we appreciated ourselves. We said something, we did something that we felt better about, and or we even said it like, oh good, finally I made it, for example. And then the next day, the next morning, we might get pain in the neck, pain in the hip, pain in the spine, somewhere there. So it's always about self-deprecation. Yeah. The next one is to get support from the health workers you trust and techniques or remedies that work for you. And I would also add that calm you down. So everything that feels calming is super useful for health. And to be truly connected with other people contributes to, or either prevents us from getting into the syndrome, into this sphere of loneliness, abandonment, and something like this, this feeling of connectedness. So in generally, this approach contributes to getting back control over your health. And it amazes me so much because there is nobody else responsible for our health than us. And we become more responsible, we become more aware, and we become more grown up. I think it's amazing. So when you get any symptom, you need to just celebrate your recovery and rest, and appreciate yourself for recovering, appreciate this regenerative power of your body. If the symptom is happening for the first time, you actually don't need to remember to look for the initial conflict, to remember what happened. You can do this, it can be helpful, but it can only be helpful if the symptom stays for too long. But it is, if it just occurred today, for example, you don't need to look into this. So you just relax, have no fear, celebrate your recovery, and take a salty bath. And only if the symptom stays or reoccurs and becomes intense or bothers too much, then we can look into the initial conflict and try to resolve it. This can be made with any trained specialist in this neuropsychosomatics. Yeah, I'm finally there. I finished. And this is the information all this what I was telling you is based on. So this is all of them can be found on Amazon. I checked it. The 5 biological laws in Dr. Hammer's New Medicine, and Gabor Mate's When Your Body Says No, and Gilbert Renaud Recall Healing. And I found out that there is a whole science, psychoneuroimmunology, or even psychoneuroimmunoendocrinology, that has a lot of researchers on this topic. They research how stress is connected with health and everything. But only in this Dr. Hammer's work, I found these exact links and connections, and the thing that having symptoms is actually our body expressing health. It changed my life, and I hope it will change yours for better too. I'm so thankful for your attention, and I'm ready to listen to your questions if you have them. Do you have any questions?
Where do we sign up?
Where do we sign up? Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I feel so impacted by this thing. Thanks so much for this like super rich, generous share. And that's true. I'm curious also how to sign up, or what to do. You know, how can the investors invest in you? Part, but yeah, super juicy. The question I would have is like, so I remember you saying like if you have some pain in your neck or like in your butt, whatever. I was contributing that to something physical, like the pillow is too high, or because I sat on stones too long, you know. Is there? I was just curious, like, is this also recovering? Like, how can I just sustain my body, or is it a different story?
Well, I guess, of course, if you stay in an uncomfortable position for a long time, your body will recover from it for some time. So it's a normal process. Yeah, we shouldn't be looking always for some, psychological reason of that. But from my feeling, I think that about 80-90% of our health state is caused by these emotional reactions, and there is some part that is purely physiological. It could be connected with bad nutrition, for example, or physical lack of physical comfort, or lack of sleep, like this purely physiological stuff.
But yeah, great. Actually, the emotional reaction to like, oh my gosh, my butt is hurting because blah blah blah, and like blaming my butt not being as comfortable enough in the uncomfortable situation. Maybe yes. So yes, definitely. Thanks. I got the connection there.
It's actually pretty important not to blame your body for the symptoms, because it happens so many times. I see it one of my clients a couple of days ago, she has acute pain in her shoulder, and she's been having it for 3 months now. And we discovered the initial situation and what happened. And then I asked her, how do you feel about your symptom? Do you blame your arm for not being fully functional? And she said, of course I do. Every time I get the pain, I say, oh, what the hell? Can you be healthy? Like 3 months. And I said, yeah, you need to change that attitude. You need to be very like nurturing, you know, like, okay, you're doing good, you will be healthy. Well, you are healthy, you will be functional, you know, like being very, very delicate to our bodies. Any more questions? Oh yeah, about signing up. There is actually, of course, I have a lot more information about that, and we will, I don't know, we will figure out what to do with all this information. I hope Forrest will help me, and maybe you all will help me make it into a course or something. I don't know. But the next step that I wanted to take would be, I have like 14 steps written down what to do when we get a symptom. So it could be some kind of masterclass or workshop for the next time. It's super interesting.
Victoria, thank you so much. Really any questions? I'd love to see like those next 14 steps and stuff. But it's like learned a lot, and just like around the baths, like I'm always taking as many baths as I can for the water bill with Epsom salt. And next time I take one, I'm definitely going to try to stay in as long as possible. Around like going to the bathroom, like the kidneys opening, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, there's a lot that I'm very thankful to have learned through this session with you. So thank you.
Thank you for this feedback. It is so important for me that you all are here, because you help me showing up and bring this information to the world, because I personally think that it is super important and super helpful. Not all people are ready to hear this, and I know this from my experience, but those who practice it, they became so much, I wouldn't say healthier, but so much calmer about their health. And this is an amazing gift. And my parents, you know, my parents are around 60 now, and I'm not fearful for their health, and they are not fearful for their health. It is an amazing gift, actually. So I hope I can transfer it further.
Yeah, maybe I can relate to it. Because we were told about this information around 4 years ago. I kind of tried to practice it my own way. And then like 4 months ago happened very stressful work connected event to my family. And last 2 months I spent just kind of recovering, swimming in the sea, sleeping, eating. And now, like I think a few days ago, I started feeling that, yeah, I'm ready to live again. And I think it could take much longer if I didn't know this information, if I wasn't calm when I had some symptoms during the last months. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. Yeah, absolutely. It helps to go through the process of recovery. And I have one more example, which is like super, I'm forgetting the words because of the excitement, sorry. My friend had it, she had a little wound on her arm. At some point, I think she already left. She was here too. So she had this wound, and it was slowly regenerating. It was slowly healing. But then she went to the beautician, and there were several women that she knows, and they came and they said, oh, wow, you need to take it to a doctor. It looks awful. And what do you think happened? She got scared, and it started swelling, like straight in front of her eyes. It started swelling, it started getting bigger, and then she got even more scared, and then she called me, and I calmed her down, and I told her that about the not told her because she does know it. I reminded her about syndrome and everything, and she was like, Oh, okay. And she has a lot of fear about her health, and she calmed down. And by the evening, by the time she got home, the swelling decreased. Everything went back to norm, and in a couple of days it healed. But this only reaction when other people make somebody feel fearful about their health, it is so not helpful. So I try to be very mindful around things that I tell other people, not to scare them and not to put blame on them. Like, some people feel guilty for having symptoms, for being sick, for being not healthy. There's so many layers underneath it. And if we're mindful about that, then when we have less symptoms.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was really interesting. And for me, the connection to fear was and I was thinking of Anita Mojani, who almost died, or she was over the edge already with lymphoma. And then she realized that it was the fear of getting sick that made her sick. So this was really amazing, and I would like to ask you. You said something about cancer, to stay away from the causing facts. But do you have any I don't know, example or anything to say something about it?
I do. I have a revolutionary information about cancer, actually, but I'm afraid that it will take at least 30 minutes more for me to tell. I'm excited to give you more information. I'm just I won't.
We can talk. It's a personal question, so maybe I can.
Sure. We can
get in contact and.
We can do this in a personal consultation. One thing that I can tell about this is that for people who practice this information, survival ratio from cancer is 98%, because it gives absolutely different approach, absolutely new perspective on cancer with knowing this. Starting from fearful state, and then going to the purely biological process that take place. And I can do another a separate masterclass on that at some point.
Yeah, I think there would be an awesome class to give. Yeah.
It's just there is on the internet, and I think it's for sale. There is a book that is called a scientific chart for German medicine, and it has all these links. It has as I said, brain, psyche, and organ. It has all these links from emotional reaction to the organ, but it's like 180 pages big, and it is a bit hard to comprehend it all at the same time, but I do know most of it by now, so any person can learn it, and it's amazing to practice.
I'm glad I came.
I cannot hear you. Do everybody can hear Ariana? No, we cannot hear you. I just heard. I'm glad. Yeah.
Ariana, now it was, I think.
Yeah.
Try it again.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to thank you, Victoria. It's so nice to meet you. And this presentation was really beautifully timed for me. I'm going through a bit of a journey with my own health, and I did have a question that I feel like was answered through the last few questions, but any advice on discovering your initial conflict with something that's chronic, like something that's not, there's not like an amplification that's aligned with a certain time, it's just kind of has been consistent my whole life. Well, I actually know kind of the age of when it started, but I don't really remember what had happened. So any advice around that would be really helpful.
Usually when we know the symptom itself, it is easier to look for the initial conflict because we know for what kind of situation to look. I think it's better to do in a personal conversation, one-to-one conversation, if you don't want to discuss it in front of other people. But when we know the exact place and the sensation that it gives you, like the symptom, then it's much easier to look.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I will give just a couple of examples just to understand how it goes. For example, when we have coughing or sore throat, it is called a territorial threat. So, for example, something was threatening our territory or our health or metaphorical territory, and then the threat is gone, and right after we get the symptoms. So by knowing the symptom, I know the type of conflict. Or, for example, I already said about self-deprecation. It's connected to the muscles, bones, and to the excess weight also. It is always about self-deprecation, but knowing the part of the body where a person has pain, I can make it even more specific. For example, when a person has a pain in the shoulder, it literally means, or literally metaphorically means, to give somebody a shoulder, to give somebody help. So a person blames himself for not giving enough help to somebody. And usually when I say the conflict the way it sounds, something clicks in the mind and the person immediately knows what I'm talking, or who it is connected with. So that's how it goes. You understand? Like I know the place, and then I can tell where to look for and what to look for.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think I got my answer in exactly what you said. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, then I'll give a bit more details because it is important as well. Everything is important. When we talk about bones, muscles, and like everything connected to the skeleton, there is difference between left and right parts of our bodies. And for the right-handed people, it is important too. The whole left part of the body would be connected with either mother or children, or somebody or something perceived as such. For example, sometimes grandmothers are perceived as mothers, sometimes pets are perceived as children. So left part for right-handed people is about mother or child, and the right part would be about a partner, about father, or other social, any other social interactions. And sometimes it could mean ourselves as a partner, like partner relations. And for the left-handed people, it is vice versa. So this way we get even more specific into the conflict, like we know with what person the conflict was.
Thank you. This is fascinating. Thank you.
I'm so glad. I'm so happy.
It is fascinating. So like I'm getting questions. So if you're actually left-handed and like schooled to be right-handed,
yeah,
what happens then?
It's a good question. Usually, even if you're retaught or taught to use another arm, which happened a lot in Soviet Union, in our country, you will still use your left hand in other situations. Like, for example, snowboarding. Well, not left hand, but left leg. Snowboarding, clapping. When you clap, usually the hand that comes over is your yeah, I don't know if your images are mirrored or not, so I cannot say actually, but you can tell for yourself, right? So the hand that naturally comes on the top would be your, will show you who you are. And when you stand, you can ask somebody to push you slightly, and the foot that will come first, that will show it as well. And for women, it is how they hold children, usually right-handed. Yeah, I don't know how to hold children. So mothers know. Yeah, I just imagined that I get confused, so I decided to drop it. But you got the idea, right?
Wow, thanks. So I think I'll clap with the right hand on top and then would go with the left foot. So I don't know, maybe I'm a mix.
You got even more confused now.
Yeah.
There are some more tests that we could do some other time that will show, or maybe, you know, when you really get a question or a symptom, it could show what it was connected to. Yeah, guys are and girls are studying to leave. Thank you so much for your attention. I could go on for hours, you know. But I think we are loaded enough right now, and we could get tired if I talk more.
Let's recover.
Yeah, let's celebrate and recover, right? I am so happy to share all this with you.